What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another InkSpot Games video, and today we're going to be continuing our How to Play Lorcana series, but we're actually going to put some of the stuff we learned from the rules into practice. Now, it's important to say that I'm not playing an actual game against somebody here. Instead, we're just going to go through the cards and go through different actions you can do, so we kind of have a visual of what it's supposed to look like and how you actually use the cards. Sometimes it is better to learn something by actually seeing it happen. Also, the software we're going to be using for this tutorial is a tabletop simulator, which can play a whole bunch of tabletop themed games and card games. And this is going to be a great way to play Lorcana online. So you can download a tabletop simulator, and there are mods on Steam to get the cards and the playmats and stuff for Lorcana. So if you want to play Lorcana online with friends, this is a great way to do that. All right, so we're just going to go through a typical turn, and from the standpoint of us starting first. So let's say we won our coin toss, we won our die roll or rock, paper, scissors, whatever. We're going first. So again, we are now in the beginning phase. So we need to set everything up. Well, before the beginning phase, we have to do our setup, shuffle our deck, and we draw 7 cards. Now remember, because we are going first, we do not have the draw portion. All right, we do not draw a card this turn. But one thing we can do is a mulligan. So let's say we're looking at our hand and there's a couple cards we don't want. Which, again, by the way, any moves or decisions I make during this tutorial, this isn't a strategy type thing. It's just me showing what you can do. So I'm not saying that anything I do is this is the right way you play this specific deck. The full game isn't even out yet, so we're still kind of learning how to do things. So just don't confuse this with actual strategy. We're just still learning how to play the actual game. That being said, back to doing a mulligan. If there are some cards in your hand that you don't want, or maybe certain cards you're missing, you can mulligan any amount of cards in your hand. So let's say I want to get rid of my high-costed stuff. I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this. We put it back into the deck. We got rid of 2 cards. We're going to shuffle our deck and then draw 2 cards to replace them. All right, and then that's our mulligan. You only get 1 mulligan per game. All right, now that we're all set up, and there's really nothing to really do in the beginning phase because there's no cards in play and we can't draw, we're just going to move to our main phase. And again, like we discussed in the rules video, the main phase, this is where you can do any action. All right, and the first action we're going to do is playing a card in our inkwell. Now, if you remember when looking at the actual cards, if you look at the cost of the card on the top left, some of those numbers have circles around them, some of them don't. The cards that have that circle around it can be used as ink. If it does not have a circle around it, you cannot place this card as ink in your inkwell. So we're going to start things off. Let's say we want to just play Aladdin here as a piece of ink in our inkwell. We need to reveal it to our opponent so that they can confirm that we're actually making a legal play. And then there we go. We have a card in our inkwell. And this card stays there for the game. All right? And you can use this as a resource throughout. Now, we do have some things we can do. We have an action card. And again, we said that an action card can be played immediately and gets sent to the discard pile after it's used. So this action card costs 1. And as you can see, we have 1 ink in our inkwell. So in order to play our action card, we need to exert our ink. Okay, which means we are using this to pay for something, and then we can play our action card. All right, and our action card reads, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put one to your hand and the other on the bottom of the deck. So we're going to go ahead and take the top 2 cards. And we can add one to our hand and add one to the bottom. We'll add Aurora to our hand. And we'll put Donald Duck on the bottom. And then our action card goes to the discard pile. Alright, so we use this resource. We exert it. Once you exert your ink in your inkwell, it can't be used again until your next turn. So that's all we have for this turn. So we're going to pass it to our opponent. Let's say our opponent does something similar. They play 1 card in their inkwell. They play 1 card. Actually, you want, let me pull up actual thing here. Okay, they play 1 card in their inkwell and then pass it on to us. Now, we are in the beginning phase. Okay, when we're in the beginning phase, we reset everything for it to be back in the ready position. So once our turn comes back to us, our ink is no longer exerted, or any character we have or item we have is no longer exerted. So now we draw, we get our card, and we move on to the main phase, and we can make our plays. Alright, so I want to set another card for ink. Alright, let's go ahead, reveal to our opponent. Set. So now we have 2 cards in our inkwell, which means we can play a card that costs 1 or 2. So we have Donald Duck or Aurora we can play, or we can use these action cards if we wanted to, but I want to get a character onto the field. So I'm going to go ahead and play Aurora. Aurora costs 2 ink, so we need to exert 2 ink in order to play our Aurora. Now our Aurora is on the mat, is on the board. Alright, now, again, like we talked about in our rules, going over the rules yesterday, when you play a character, you cannot exert that character the first turn it's out there. Alright, again, we call that summoning sickness, right? So Aurora right now just kind of stays there. Alright, can't really do anything, and all of our ink is exerted. We don't have really any other cards to play, so we pass to our opponent. And again, let's just say our opponent sets another card. Alright, let's see if we can find like something they can play. Alright, they're exerting that, and they play their guy. Alright, then they move on to us. So now that's our turn. We can re-ready our exerted cards. Draw a card. And we proceed with our turn. So let's say we want to play another character. We're going to set another ink. And I want to play this Mickey Mouse. This Mickey Mouse costs 3 to play. So we need to exert all 3 ink so we can play our Mickey Mouse. So even though we can't exert our Mickey Mouse this turn, he still has an ability that you can use once you play him. The card reads, when you play this character, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. So I am going to do that. Make sure also to remember card terminology, right? When it says you may put the top card, that means you have a choice too. All right, some cards might read differently to force you to do something. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but for here it says you may put the top card of your deck, so you have a choice. You didn't have to do that. So this is pretty good. So now we have 4 cards in our inkwell, and now we can exert our Aurora. All right, so there's 2 things we can do. We can challenge or we can quest. Actually, really, there's only one thing we can do. We can't challenge because you can only challenge characters that are exerted. And as you can see, our opponent's Flounder is not exerted. So we're going to go ahead and quest. Now, this is how you gain your lore in order to win the game, right? So if we look at the white diamonds on the sort of middle right of the card, there's 2 of them. So if we're sending Aurora out on a quest, that means we're collecting 2 lore. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to send her out on a quest, and we're going to gain 2 lore. And that's all for our turn, and our opponent's going to go. Now, let's say, again, this is just an example. We have a card that is exerted. So the risk you run into here is that now our Aurora is open for an attack. So let's say our opponent wants to challenge our Aurora. Their Flounder has 2 strength. Remember, strength is the number on the left, and willpower is the number on the right. So the Flounder has 2 strength. Our Aurora has 2 willpower. So they're going to exert the Flounder to challenge our Aurora. All right, now, if they do this, that means my Aurora is banished, and that means the Flounder is banished. So let's just, again, say they do that, just to remove our card, and that's their turn. Back to our turn, ready everything up, draw a card, and we proceed with our turn. I want to use Donald here as an ink, revealed to our opponent. There's a couple different things we can do here. Before I play this, I kind of want to use these action and songs. So we're going to go ahead and exert 1 to use this action. Again, reveal 2 cards, place 1 in their hand and 1 at the bottom of the deck. We'll go ahead and do that. All right, and then we also have what's called a song. Now, a song is like a different kind of action, and if we read the card, it says a character with the cost of 2 or more can exert to sing this song for free. So if we wanted to, we could exert our Mickey Mouse to use this for free, but I kind of don't want to do that because I'm not using my resources for anything else. So we're going to actually pay the cost. All right, put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. So there we go. But again, if we wanted to, we could have exerted our Mickey Mouse to play this for free, but I didn't feel like we needed to do that. So there's still some stuff we can do. I guess we'll use another Develop Your Brain card. Again, check the top 2 cards. Put 1 in our hand, 1 at the bottom of the deck. Alright, now we're going to exert our Mickey. Put Mickey on the quest, and he can collect 1 lore. And then there you go. So this is kind of what the game is. So over time, you're building up resources. Right, you're building up resources, and that can eventually lead to you playing these larger cards that can do more. Like this Mickey Mouse, for example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we were to get 8, if we were able to pay for 8, he can collect 4 lore by himself. Okay, but again, we need to be careful about what cards we exert, and it all depends on what our opponent has on the field, because they can challenge our cards to remove them. And obviously, we can do the same thing to our opponent. All right, but sometimes challenging your opponent's card can lead to your card also being banished. We have our damage counters here to track how much damage a card has. And once it matches the willpower, that card is banished. Okay, so, I want to play 2, 3, 4, 5. Use 5 to play this Mulan. And this Mulan says, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, your other characters get +1 this turn. So, like, what you would do is you would use or challenge someone and then collect lore. So then we can use Mickey again, gain another lore, and so on and so forth. Alright, so this is kind of like the basic mechanics of how the game works. Obviously, depending on the state of your game. You can strategize any way you want, and those are videos we'll probably make a little later. But I just want to kind of go over sort of what it looks like to play the game and kind of how these things work, and put like a visual to it. So I hope this was somewhat helpful at least. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.